In 1984, the smash hit movie Ghostbusters came out. It was a perfect blend of comedy and horror, with many memorable moments and quotes. However, the movie found a particular fondness with its child audience. So finally, in 1986, many kids were excited to learn that finally a Ghostbusters cartoon was coming out, so kids at home could continue to enjoy the supernatural adventures of Peter Venkman, Winston Zeddemore, Ray Stantz, and Egon Spengler. However, around about the same time the Ghostbusters cartoon came out, another Ghostbusters cartoon also came out. In fact, their premieres were days apart. The other Ghostbusters cartoon had caused some confusion to kids and fans of the movie, whom were tuning in to realise that they weren't watching a cartoon about the Ghostbusters seen in the movie, but two bumbling guys called Jake and Eddie and a gorilla called Tracy, whom also have a car that can talk and fly and even travel in time, where they have to stop an evil ghost robot called Primeval. It had similar concepts to the other Ghostbusters. They busted ghosts, they had a headquarters, and even a Ghostbusters logo. Ah, so similar and yet so different. Yep, I am reading great confusion on this one. So in this episode of Weird Tales of Pop Culture, we're exploring the strange anomaly in the Ghostbusters fandom. That is the Filmation Ghostbusters, often referred to as the other Ghostbusters. So to try and find out how this happened, and if the show was any good, and how does it hold up compared to the other Ghostbusters franchise, we're going to have to explore and check it out. So in order to understand how we got two different Ghostbusters at the same time, we're going to have to travel back to the beginning. But not to the 1984 movie, nope, we're going to have to go back nearly 10 years earlier to 1975. Technically, the Filmation Ghostbusters cartoon is an animated series based on a live-action children's show called The Ghostbusters. The show was about a pair of bumbling detectives called Kong and Eddie and a gorilla called Tracy, who go out to solve ghost and other supernatural mysteries. The show utilised a lot of slapstick comedy and wacky gags. The show also only lasted for one season, consisting of 15 episodes, and was broadcast from September till December 1975. All 15 episodes were supposedly filmed over the course of 9 weeks, and of course the show's production company was Filmation. I guess you could say the show was kind of like a live-action Scooby-Doo. The actor who played Tracy, Bob Burns, said that the first and only season of the show did quite good, ratings-wise, enough to warrant a second season. But Filmation decided to ditch the Ghostbusters and instead put all its attention to its #1 show, the Shazam and Isis Hour. And just like that, that was the end of the show. Bound to be buried by the sands of time. If it wasn't for one movie. So in the early 80s, Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis were putting a script together for what would become their supernatural comedy masterpiece called Ghostbusters. A movie about 3 unemployed down-on-their-luck scientists and a new recruit whom form the Ghostbusters business to put away the slimy ghouls of New York City, and in turn save the world from an evil ancient god called Gozer. And of course the movie and the characters were called Ghostbusters. But then Dan Aykroyd and the rest of the production found out that Filmation owned the rights to the name Ghostbusters, thanks to the 1975 TV show. So then Aykroyd toyed around with the idea of calling the movie Ghost Smashers, along with Ghost Breakers, Ghost Blasters, and Ghost Stoppers. But none of the alternative titles were growing on the production. So Columbia Pictures, whom were distributing the movie, leased out the name Ghostbusters from Filmation for $608,000 and for 1% of the movie's profits. And just like that, the movie became Ghostbusters, the movie we all know and love. What's interesting is that some of the early concepts of the Ghostbusters movie involves Ghostbusters being able to travel into other dimensions through time and space, an element that was actually added to Filmation's cartoon. So, what's in a name? Well, if this situation is anything to go by, a lot. So Ghostbusters was a massive hit, bringing in over $285 million at the box office, and it was clear that there was a market out there for kids who wanted more Ghostbusters. So really, a cartoon was inevitable. So Columbia started the process of making a Ghostbusters cartoon. When Filmation heard about this, they approached Columbia and asked if they could make the cartoon, and supposedly Columbia were interested. Going with Filmation actually would have been a sure win, as the company had produced many popular cartoons, such as a Star Trek cartoon, a Batman cartoon, and at that time was having great success with its juggernaut hit, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, which had nearly every kid screaming out in their living room, "I have the power!" However, Columbia Pictures ditched working with Filmation and instead went with Deke, whom at that time produced the popular animated TV series Inspector Gadget. So with Deke, they then got to work on their own cartoon. However, Filmation wasn't going to let this stop them from making a Ghostbusters cartoon, so they decided to make an animated series based on their 1975 TV show, which in theory could be like the other Ghostbusters, as it's about a team busting ghosts. And look, in my opinion, and it's just an opinion, Filmation did capitalize on the movie and try to get in on the hype, probably out of retaliation for Columbia not making a series with them. After all, their cartoon wasn't called The Ghostbusters like the TV show, but just Ghostbusters, all in one word, just like the movie. So when Columbia Pictures found out that Filmation were making a rival Ghostbusters cartoon and that they had every legal right to do so, they decided to call their cartoon The Real Ghostbusters, probably to try and fix some confusion, and to put it out there that this is the official article, the Ghostbusters that you came to see, the ones from the movie, not the Ghostbusters based on a TV show from the 70s. Incidentally, both Ghostbusters cartoons had promos, and both were very interesting. The Real Ghostbusters promo shows the Ghostbusters in their traditional beige jumpsuits as seen in the movie, unlike the final cartoon where they all had different coloured jumpsuits, and Peter bared more of a resemblance to Bill Murray, unlike the show where they made him look more like Matt Smith, and Slimer was more of a ghoul, whereas in the actual series he became more of a friendly mascot. The Filmation Ghostbusters also has differences in their promos that were changed for the series. For example, they had the same logo that was used for the TV show, which would get changed. Primeval looks more like Mum-Ra from Thundercats, and Jake is wearing green, and Eddie, well, to be honest, I don't know what Eddie is wearing here. He looks just as confused as I am. Okay, so Filmation's Ghostbusters premiered on September the 8th, 1986, and the Real Ghostbusters premiered several days later on the 13th. But comparisons aside, what was Filmation's Ghostbusters all about? Well, it focuses on Jake and Eddie, who are the sons of the Ghostbusters from the original 1975 series. In fact, those original characters turn up in the cartoon every now and then. Jake and Eddie take over the Ghostbusters business at the Ghostbusters headquarters, which itself is a madhouse full of ghosts, which when you think about it doesn't really make much sense. Every time Jake and Eddie jump into action, they always say, "Let's go Ghostbusters!" where we see a montage of them going into some strange funhouse where they get changed into their Ghostbusters gear, which is literally in just about every episode. But I didn't mind it as a kid, I always got a kick out of this part. But sometimes I did wonder, wouldn't it be easy for them to just, actually put their clothes on rather than going through this weird built-in wardrobe carnival? I mean, how much is running this thing costing them in electricity bills? And of course they had a ghost buggy, which can travel in time and talk, where they can travel from the days of the dinosaurs, to ancient Egypt, to medieval England, and even the future. And in the future, there are future Ghostbusters, with Futura, a Ghostbuster from the future who frequently appeared on the show. But I always wondered if she was an alien, on the account she's, well, purple. The tech that the Filmation Ghostbusters use is kind of flawed, as it's explained in the first episode that they can zap the ghosts into another dimension, but it's only temporary, which is kind of pointless, as the ghosts can just come back. And there's a gun that shoots bubblegum at the ghosts. Yeah, take that, ghosts. Wow, that looks like a real mild inconvenience. But that said, their car was pretty cool, so there's that. Unlike the real Ghostbusters, Filmation's Ghostbusters had a reoccurring big bad called Primeval, who's like some kind of evil robot ghost. And to be honest, he actually looked pretty cool. And he also had a group of minions whom are always up to schemes to try and destroy the Ghostbusters. But Primeval to me never really came off as a threat, as he seemed more of a bumbling idiot. And for some reason, he's always striking this pose, where it looks like he's modelling for a magazine cover or something. Seriously, what's with that? So this begs to ask the question, what became of the Filmation Ghostbusters? Well, unlike the real Ghostbusters, which had a successful run with 6 seasons, Filmation's Ghostbusters only lasted for 1 season. I think it just couldn't compete with the immense popularity of the other Ghostbusters brand, you know, the one associated with the movie. I also think that Filmation's Ghostbusters went for a more safer, goofy for small children approach, whereas the real Ghostbusters could have some genuine creepy moments, and have themes put in there to appeal to a wide variety of ages. The Filmation Ghostbusters felt like they went for a more comical, wacky approach. The real Ghostbusters felt like it took a more scientific approach, whereas Filmation Ghostbusters felt more like magic, be that random magic just made up on the spot. So whereas the real Ghostbusters felt grounded in its universe, the Filmation's Ghostbusters defied logic, in the name of making funny gags. I can actually remember my introduction to Filmation's Ghostbusters when I was 5. It was early one morning before school, and I was flicking through the TV guide to see that Ghostbusters was about to start. So I got all excited and turned on the TV thinking that I was getting the real Ghostbusters, only to be confused with this other alternative one. I couldn't quite figure out what was going on, as this wasn't the Ghostbusters that I knew and loved. This was some weird imposter. But that said, I did grow to love the show. So much so I brought many of the action figures and kept them with my real Ghostbusters action figures. I actually loved both shows the same. To me, Filmation's Ghostbusters was like a parallel universe version of the real Ghostbusters, like some kind of Ghostbusters multiverse. And as mentioned, I loved them both equally. I think the real Ghostbusters was the better show and has aged better, and it still have things in it that I appreciate even as an adult. But that said, I will always have fond memories of those other Ghostbusters. And I must express, the Filmation Ghostbusters is still pretty popular, and it does have a massive fandom. So to me, it's part of the Ghostbusters mythos, in my own weird collective Ghostbusters perspective. Anyway, I'm Minty, and the other Ghostbusters is a weird tale of pop culture. Oh, I wish I was a Ghostbuster with Ecto in my hair. Head.